Hello, welcome to the Steve Calis Show. How are you? Are you okay? I hope you're well and happy and that you're having a good day. I just want to take a quick second to thank our guest Anna again. She was great. She was friendly and funny and warm and knowledgeable. She was just a really great person to have on the show, and you're going to hear that. She totally understood our sense of humor, and she was great. Co-host Kevin Harris couldn't make it. He'll be back for the next episode. I know he's literally the reason a lot of you listen to this show. So he'll be back, so don't worry about that. What I did want to say is I do genuinely have my intention with getting Anna on the show and talking about this topic is that I do have an issue. I am very, very concerned about my sugar intake and about my diet and about my compulsion to eat terrible things for me, and I've got an aversion to vegetables. I eat like a sort of a toddler that lives by himself. You know what I mean? And I keep in this episode, I keep making a joke about it because and this is what I do in everything in my life. If it comes to the crunch, if I have to have a serious conversation, then I tend to mask that with jokes. And I think that made the episode very sort of jokey and funny and really great to listen to. But there is a part of me each time saying, please help me. I am struggling with this. I'm very worried I'm going to die because I can't eat anything other than fatty, salty things. I've got no discipline. It's like it's compulsive, this eating thing that I'm experiencing at the moment. So I think, whenever you hear me ask a question in this episode, the undertone or the undercurrent of it is, God, I really am having some difficulties with this. Now, luckily, Anna's so good and so professional that I got some really good advice from her. But I think listening back, I was in a just sort of giggly, funny, happy mood. And so whilst I planned to have a serious conversation, I ended up just sort of showing off and enjoying myself. And so it was a great time. And I did luckily get a lot of good answers from Anna. But just between sort of me and you, listener, I am having a tough time with that, with my weight, with the sort of depression and shame that comes with my eating habits and by my being overweight. So that, I don't want to bum you out before the episode starts. It's a fun episode. But that is the context. And this won't be the end of it, this episode. I want to talk to more professionals and get a handle on my problem here. And you'll see it stems from a history of, drug use and all these sorts of problems I faced in the past. I just have a new problem. You could argue it's not as unhealthy as my previous habits. But anyway, I'm rambling again. So yeah, that's all I want you to know about this episode. It's an important episode to me. We've got some great advice. It's very, very funny, and I really enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed this episode, then please consider clicking the follow button or subscribing, especially on Spotify. Click the follow button, leave us a review. Those things are immeasurably helpful. I can't tell you. That's the thing that will get us noticed. That's the thing that will propel us from small town podcasts to, national podcast, and that's the goal. So thank you so much for listening. I really do hope you're okay. Feel free to reach out to us on social media. Just look for the Steve Calis Show. We're on Facebook or wherever Instagram, wherever you do it. And we're always happy to hear from you and talk to you. So I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And hopefully we'll see you soon. On with the show. Hello, welcome to the Steve Calis Show. I'm Steve Calis. I'm joined once again by our magnificent producer George. Producer George, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, ready to go.
Ready to rock and roll. And how did you find your first time? The last episode was your sort of debut on the podcasting scene. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Really had a good time. It was absolutely terrifying, and you really threw me in at the deep end.
Yes.
But yes, I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time.
Good. And today's episode is a personal one because it goes hand in hand with a sort of crisis I've been having. And so we've called upon the best person for the job to guide me through this existential crisis that I'm having. I'd like to introduce to everybody Anna. Anna, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Hello, thank you. I'm really good. Very excited to be here. I feel like I'm now very nervous based on how it went last week. That sounds ominous and that
Yeah.
massive build up, but I'm excited. So thank you for having me.
Hey, well, it's a real pleasure. The stuff that I want to go over, but we'll get into you and what you do and how you got into it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bombard you with all my insecurities and anxieties, and let's see what we can do about them.
I love
All
it.
right. So, Anna, what is it exactly that you do? Because I know it's nutrition based. Is that right? What do you do?
Yes. So I am a nutritionist, but my background is in psychology and I'm also a mindfulness teacher. So what I actually do combines everything. But typically people come to me for nutrition, and as ever, it ends up being a million different things. So I work for myself as a nutritionist, but then I also still work in the NHS in psychology. So
Wow! Oh, well,
lots of random different things.
Oh man, yeah, you're gonna have a busy 40 minutes on this podcast. Let me tell you, you're the
Wait.
person for the job. Yeah.
Some unethical therapy over podcast. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah, because a lot of stuff I want to talk about is stuff that, because I'm relatively self-aware, and I'm fully aware that, like, I might say, for example, I've got a real problem with sugar. I've got a real problem with impulses. I've got a real problem with this sort of thing, and I know it stems from certain things in my past, or just a totally broken or corrupt way of thinking or considering vegetables or sugar, that sort of thing. And so, let me turn all these notifications I'm suddenly getting for no reason off, so I'm not interrupted. So I'm fully aware that there's broken thought processes that lead to why I have these sort of impulse control problems. But let's first, before we get into, I'm very self-involved. You'll see it's mostly. But before we get to me, what do you think of me? Before we get to it, how did you get into this? What is it that holds your passion the most? Is it the psychology side of it, or is it the nutrition, or do you enjoy the fusion of the two?
All of it. I love it all. So the psychology was initially, and still very much there. I feel like I've always been but why do you do that? Like a people watcher, and then it's just kind of escalated into, but now tell me all your trauma. And it's kind of that, I think it came from that wanting to know, and part of it is always wanting to understand yourself. And then I got into mindfulness because I really struggled in lockdown, really high stress job, wasn't sleeping, started doing mindfulness. And this is generally how my life works. I was like, I'm going to become a teacher and teach this to people. So did that during lockdown, and then really got into, so I've always been, I suppose, the typical growing up, tried every diet, done all those different things. And then I really got into or started learning more about the importance of diet or mental health, but kind of that deeper level, more than just don't eat rubbish. Really got into it. And I was like, well, why was this not taught to me in my psychology degree? Like, I've been working in mental health for years, didn't have a clue about any of this. So I was like, I'm going to become a nutritionist. So I did. And now I do like a combination of those things. And I love it. It's like a good balance. I think there's, like, obviously the NHS work is higher stress, and then nutrition is talking about actual, like, the day-to-day things that really make an impact. So it's like both a good combination of things.
I always think, if as a nutritionist, do you ever see these sort of fads and trends come in? Like, for example, over the years, I suppose you get like the Atkins diet, and you got extreme veganism, and you got all these different things that come and go, and they're suddenly vogue. Does some part of you go, no? Is there? Do you worry about that sort of thing? Is there? Do you just go, moderation is key, and don't go so extreme with the things? How do you consider stuff like that?
I have a YouTube channel, and I made a series of me basically slating all of those different diet types. I, every now and then, something will pop up and I'm like, that's so annoying, and have a mini rant. So I think I if I'm in like a really calm, measured mode, I'm like, that's just annoying. But if I'm in a bad mood and I see something else like this, I'm like, this is just ridiculous. And now, because of my page, people like send me these fasting people, or like all this other stuff. And I'm like, stop. It makes me sad. It makes my soul very sad. Like, think of all the food they're missing. Like,
yeah, well, that's part of it where I don't have the, like, I suppose representing the ordinary person who doesn't have this sort of nutrition background. I don't have the tools I need to fend off these things, right? So, like, this guy was saying, what you need to do is you need to fast for 3 days. Fast for 3 days, then do a sort of on and off thing. And I was going, well, okay, I guess. And I'm sort of sat on my sofa starving to death, going, why am I doing this? Yeah, there's no benefit. And I suppose, like, I don't have what it needs to sort of to fight it off all the time. Like, my friend who's a vegan will come around. Part of me does see the, amazing, like the benefit of that is amazing. And one day I do suspect there will be, we will look back on our time now and go, they did what to animals? Jesus. So I do see the moral side of it. But I tried to be a vegan when I lived abroad and became just sort of malnourished and almost withered away into nothingness. So it's part of what you do to sort of safeguard regular folks from that. I mean, do you distribute information and that sort of thing?
I do my best to. There's a few that have, like, they sell so well. Like, realistically, what I'm selling is like normal and boring. I'm not selling like you're going to completely overhaul your life and you're going to lose 20 stone in 3 days, because that's dumb and that's not going to work. So, but that sells. Like, the reality of it is that stuff really sells. Like, all those dramatic people on podcasts who are like really dramatic and expressive, that is what people want to hear. They want like a solution that isn't something that they can do. Like, there's this magical reason why I haven't been losing weight, and all these other magical cures out there, and all these people who are really conveniently selling really overpriced products to help you get your goal. But it's so sad. So I do my best, but I think I have periods of time where I can't do it because it makes me so angry. And then periods of times where I will have a rant, and then I have the more measured response where I set up a YouTube channel and slated all of the diets. So yeah, I feel like I'm trying to cover each base.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I do see that, because obviously where, TikTok's obviously somewhere along the line picked up that I'm a fat guy. So every now and then it will try and throw some podcaster at me who's basically saying something like, yo, man, I just nibbled a cow's udder for 4 days straight and lost 15 stone. Or it'll go, and then like, I was massively ripped. And it'll be like, no steroids. Clearly on steroids, you know what I mean? His muscles are deformed.
Yeah.
It looks weird, and I go, oh my god! But then, like, it's hard for as one of us, as a man, in my perspective, it's hard not to see someone like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, right? And he's going, all you need is to lift these enormous weights 100 times a day, and he's all like fucking massive and stuff, but clearly also on steroids, and has chefs to make his food 11 times a day, whatever he eats. But I'm still like looking over my girlfriend and thinking, look at this, look at these men out there. I'm sat like a potato, and there's these perfectly sculpted, enormous steroid abusing men. It can be disheartening, which I suppose links back to this sort of psychology thing, because maybe you're able to go, it's okay. That's not what human beings look like. You shouldn't strive for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also imagine they're going to be so angry because of the steroids. They're not someone who your girlfriend wants to be with. Don't worry. That's like, it's okay, all okay. And like spending your entire life in the gym, that's not a life. It is for some people, or maybe it's for some people, but like, it's all about balance. It's about finding what works for you and finding your normal. And that sadly doesn't sell as much, and it doesn't get like the interaction on TikTok the same level. But that is what works. That's what we need to do. And that is just what isn't spoken about so much. And it is those extremes that get taken out. And I wish that your impression felt like a fake, but I feel like I've seen that exact TikTok with that exact person.
Yeah.
So it's very real. They're everywhere.
Yeah. They're pushing it to me. They're going, Steve, seriously, put down the donut. Look at this huge, enormous dinosaur, man. And I go, I don't want to be a dinosaur, man. But then the complicated part of it is that, like, I'm fully aware that I've got such a problem with sugar. I've got such a problem with my diet. When I hit my sort of early 20s, I was homeless. Literally living in the woods on and off for nearly 3 years. So I would eat just, something from a bin, a bit of pizza I could find, scrape something out, tins of beans. So now I haven't lost the reflex to go calories, because it's that or a starve. You know what I mean? That was quite scary. And so I haven't been able to shake off the food. All right. Yeah, and I can't control that sort of impulse still. Did you come across clients who struggle with that sort of thing, with the impulse to just feed? Because the good thing is, I suppose, is with my son, we're very strict. And we get eye rolls from other parents and from members of our family who think, oh, let him just have a bag of sweets and let him. And, you know, it's not like we don't give him chocolate and stuff every now and then, but we don't want his hunger to be satiated purely by sugar, because that's a habit, and that's my habit, and that's why I look like, I'm melting. So do you come across do you come across that sort of thing very often?
Yes. So much, so common. And I think it's really easy to think. So there's loads of kind of factors that play here. There's our own individual experiences. There's our own choices around foods. We've kind of got our background. We've got our psychology. We've got our preferences, what's actually going on. And then we've got actual society, which inherently still pushes all of this stuff on us. So it's all of these factors coming into play. So if we think about like short term, in the moment, are you actually eating foods that will fill you up? This is something I normally do with clients at the very beginning. It's actually, are you backloading your calories? Are you actually eating breakfast, and a breakfast that's going to fill you up and keep you going? Can we incorporate snacks in the day that are actually going to keep you full? Like the first step is always, can we get like this hunger more level? That's literally pretty much it. This is so common with so many people. Get that level at the beginning. We're starting our day, we're okay, we've got some food in, we're getting protein, we're getting fiber. That's going to keep us full. We're not just having something that's going to make us peak and then crash and then feel really hungry again afterwards. And so many people, they're like, oh, I just don't eat breakfast, I don't do this. And then you look at what they're eating at the end of the day. I'm like, I'm not surprised. You must be absolutely starving by the time it gets to 3 o'clock, because you've had one banana at lunchtime, but you're telling me you're not a breakfast person. Why don't you try breakfast? Like, just see how it goes. You don't have to stick with it. We can try different things. Actually, if you can incorporate that in, like you start your day with something that's going to fill you up, you're already there, you're on it. And then there's thinking about like the psychology and why we choose the foods that we have. So it's so much more complicated than like the fitness PT down the road who's just like, just move more and eat less. There's a reason we're choosing the foods we want to eat. Like, we like those foods. They taste good. We may be getting like comfort from it. It may be that that's affordable. It may be that that's what's around. It may be something that is linked to childhood, and it may be like salty. There's so many different factors at play. It's not just like to meet your calorie needs. That's not why we eat. So there's all of those factors coming in. And if we can start to think about that as well, like, what are you actually seeking from that sugar? Like, a lot of times when we go to eat, and it becomes really automatic, we're actually seeking something else. There's an unmet need. If we've leveled that hunger, we're eating those regular meals, that's all fine. It's not actually a hunger that we're after. Maybe it is that we need something sweet, so we can have something sweet. It's not about banning it. It's about starting to dig into it. We're very good at brushing off and dismissing and moving on to the next thing and be like, oh, it's fine, just do that. But why? Like, dig in. Why? What do I need? What am I doing in this moment? What is my body asking for, and how can I move from that? How can I learn from that? And you're not always going to be able to like dig in the moment, but you can reflect. Like, you can eat the sugar and then maybe eat something that will actually keep you fuller again as well. And then you can reflect, like, what did I need there? Was I stressed? Was my child screaming at me? Was I actually really tired? Maybe I needed like a hug and someone to be like, oh my God, you've had a shit day. Maybe that's what you needed.
It's also true. Someone hug me and give me some chocolate. Christ.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. Like, there's so much more going into it.
Yeah, and just I find really frustrating. This is why I get really angry with myself, which doesn't help, because then that anger just it sort of, you're not lucid, and then you go, oh, I'm pissed off, so I'm going to eat something. So I can I can sit with myself in silence, which I don't like to do. I've always got a headphone in, but when I sort of contemplate my diet and stuff, I know I eat too much sugar. I know it's a compulsion. I know it's a comfort thing. I know it's because I'm part of my body of psychology still want to just get as much food as we can in case we can't eat again for a couple of days. But I know it, which is even more annoying. I know I smoke too many cigarettes. I know it, but it's a man following me around all the time, going. Should you be smoking that? Another packet of crisps. It was always following me around. I go, oh, fuck off, man! I'm trying here. But it's a real problem because I know, like, I look at my son and I think in a couple of years he's going to be running, and I'm going to have to really come up with a backup plan. I'm going to have to say to my fiance, baby, I would start running soon because he's really going to need you to play football with him, so I can sit there and eat things and watch it. I don't want that. I want to be able to play with him. I want to be able to, but I can't exercise because I find my smoker's lungs are knackered, and years of drugs and drinking and cigarettes have really sort of wrecked my insides. So I can barely walk worth a damn. So then, if I can't exercise, I feel like, I can't go for a run every morning because I'm still going to have a cigarette. I'm a maze of craziness, madness, and awful habits. But I want to break them, but I don't know where to start. I mean, because the problem is, I also really enjoy all those things. I enjoy a cigarette. I enjoy, all the food, but I don't enjoy that my fiance is looking slimmer and slimmer and more beautiful by the moment, and I'm looking like a weird Uncle Steve who follows her around. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What's the sort of, what advice do you give people who are, when they first come to see you? Like, what's the sort of default advice that gets people to, if someone like me who's a bag of crazy comes to you, where do I start? Like, where do I begin?
Okay, you start with where you are. Like, what you're saying at the moment is like, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm going to quit smoking and I'm going to start running. Like, is that realistic? Is that a good aim to have initially? Maybe we step it back a little bit and start really small. And it's not about getting rid of. So typically, with all people I work with at the beginning, we don't take away foods. We add things, but we're adding variety. At the beginning, it's about trying new things and having fun with it. So we do that with foods, like incorporating different plants, trying foods cooked differently. By plants, I mean like fruits, vegetables. I don't know why I said plants. That's a weird word to use. But fruits, vegetables, all of those kind of things. Sure. Incorporate that and enjoy it. Like, have fun with it. Try new recipes. But the same with exercise is like, if you don't want to run, don't run. But maybe go for a walk and go somewhere and try new things, or explore a different route. Maybe there's a random boxing class down the road that you think looks really fun, or literally all these things. Try different things. And the idea of, you can be bad at things and you can go to things, and that doesn't mean that you're going to do them forever. Try it, explore it, try and have fun with it. And then you're starting to get into a mentality where you're not punishing yourself. You're not withdrawing all these foods, and you're not forcing yourself to run 5K 3 times a week, because that's not fun. If you compare removing all the foods you like and forcing yourself to do things you hate, to incorporating food that you may actually find some food you love, which will fill you up and make you feel better in yourself, and activities where you may meet new people and try new things. This side is where you want to be. You want to be having fun with it and doing that. The other thing we always do, and this links to my meditation training, is a mindful moment, because this is everything. And it can be really short, and it's a tool that you can practice, so that it's the technique that you've got when you then need it in the moment. But initially we use it just once a day. It's even 30 seconds of being really present in the present moment. That could be enjoying your morning cup of coffee and just really focusing on that, and then building that up and doing that every day. And then you'll get to a stage where when something happens and you're really wanting that sugar, and you're kind of all caught up in your thoughts, you're having a go at yourself, you're hating yourself, you've then got a technique that you've been practicing, you know how to do it, to ground yourself, bring you to the moment, bring to the tenses, and just have that pause. Because often that's what we really need. We need to get away from our thoughts, which are telling us that we really need that sugar, we're terrible, we're horrible. And then we get the physical reactions where actually our body starts feeling like that. We're maybe getting a little bit clammy, a little bit anxious, and we're like, oh my God, now I'm really stressed. Now I really need some chocolate. And then you have the chocolate and then you feel like shit. And then you talk to yourself like shit and it spirals. Whereas if we can incorporate that mindful moment and practice those tools of like regulating ourselves and bringing ourselves to the moment. I'm not saying this is like going to change everything straight away, but if we're increasing activities that are fun and we're increasing techniques to help us manage our own thoughts, managing the moment, other coping mechanisms, these really compound over time. Like this, if you keep doing these small things, which feel really small initially, you'll look back and in 3 months' time, you've got 2 new hobbies. There's like 10 new plants you like. You have probably spent a few hours doing mindfulness and you didn't even notice it. And you've got all these techniques. And then from there, you can kind of reassess and look at where you want to go. That's a massive overview on how I would do that.
Yeah, no, it's so good. No, it's so good. I've often, because I went through a stage, obviously when I was sort of traveling abroad, I spent most of my sort of adult life backpacking all over the shop, and I've always found meditation to be a very, very handy tool. And for many years I wasn't very good at it because my brain is so loud, and it's very difficult to meditate. I mean, but people like me who it's for, because I find it very difficult to sort of tune out. But now I'm okay with it. The problem is still like, and I'm such a proponent of meditation, in fact, that I believe that it's criminal that it's not taught in schools. Children should be, from a very early age, they should have that tool because it's so important to them, because that's what stops them. It helps them deal with all sorts of emotions and situations, and it's just so important. It's actually the most powerful thing a human being can do, almost, in a way, and we should teach our kids to do it anyway. But so maybe I need to do that again to be a little bit more sort of present. But often my problem is that I'm just consumed with a sort of, I've got so many voices in my head at all times. Maybe that's the condition. Maybe schizophrenia is my issue. Maybe I just so I got lots of voices in my head at all times. Like I got a voice that I'll say to myself, because I've got that internal monologue. Shit, I'm hungry. And now I anchor that to feelings of anxiety and stress and disappointment, because I know I'm not going to satiate that in a healthy way, because I've got a real weird thing about vegetables. In fact, me and my girlfriend's always trying to feed me. She wanted to make sure that I got this across. My girlfriend's always trying to feed and prepare me some vegetables. But the other day we had a row, because, not proper row, but I was eating my mashed potato and there was like a cabbage leaf in there. And I was like, hey, what is this? What the hell is this? And she was like, and she'd sort of tried to spike me. And but I've got a weird, like, I don't know what it is about that either. But my point is, I've got so many different. I go, oh God, I'm hungry. There's a basket. If I go into the kitchen, in the cupboard, there's a basket, and in that basket is all the delicious goodness. It's all these like chocolate bars and stuff. The problem is, I can't say, okay, no chocolate, no crisps in the house, because I live with people that I love and they're normal. I want to live their lives normally. So they'll have to live a sort of aesthetic life with me of, okay, guys, we can't eat, just get some rice. We'll all subsist on rice for a minute. You know what I mean? I'm really struggling I've got no self-control. My impulse is a real issue. Does any of that rambling make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, good.
And like taking chocolate out of the house is not the solution. Anyone who tells you to just rid your cupboards of anything that tastes good, you need to sack them off. They are not people that you need in your life. That is not how you manage that situation.
I thought so. Yeah.
So this is where all those things come together, and it's not easy. But really, so gradually increasing that mindset and things like that, and making sure that your hunger levels and everything are at a level where they are stable. But really taking that time to reflect and like think about other things that you can be doing and not banning yourself. So maybe you say, every day I have to have a bar of chocolate. But maybe that bar of chocolate is the bar of chocolate that you have mindfully, and that's when you do your mindful moment. And that bar of chocolate takes you half an hour to eat, and it tastes so good.
Oh, I see. Like, yeah, so instead of like wolfing it down and not registering the experience, you're actually savouring it. So your brain's going, instead of like, did I even eat that? Where is it? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And then maybe you take and do, well, maybe you pause, you do something else, you do something that will kind of calm yourself down a little bit. Maybe you go out for a walk, and if you come back and you're still heightened and you really want that chocolate bar, then maybe like you have something else and then you have the chocolate bar. But then over time, you're still increasing all of these like self-care activities. So if you think about it, if you've gone from eating 10 chocolate bars in one day, in one moment, you can't start working with someone and expect that you're going to eat one chocolate bar or no chocolate bars. Like that's a big difference. But if you can really increase those grounding behaviors, maybe do like some journaling around it as well, increasing like going out for a walk in between, all things that are getting you from that heightened state, from that reactive state, to a place where you're considered, you're calming, you're grounded. And if you still want that chocolate bar, like it's not bad. We're not demonizing it at all. We're just gradually building up those like behaviors that are going to help us. So we're not just using that as our only thing that we need and battling it. The other thing I will say is things like self-compassion, how we talk to ourselves and being in that threat mindset. So I don't know if you kind of come across that idea before, but there's like our threat mindset where we come from that very automatic place of, oh my God, you're a piece of shit, you shouldn't have done that, all of this kind of stuff. It's a very automatic, responsive place, which will be built from a load of different things. There'll be like different situations, childhood, how we were brought, all of these like random factors come into play, and we get into this threat mindset where it's really automatic. And over periods of time, we can gradually start to get into a more compassionate mindset. So instead of that automatic response where we're having a massive go at ourselves, we can come to ourselves with that, you know what, you ate the chocolate, it's not the end of the world, and no one's going to die. And this is kind of the situation. So it's the behaviors that happen after those different mindsets will be very different. Threat mindset, you're still in that threat headspace, you're still very reactive, you're still not calm, and you're still under stress. So you're still likely to have that another piece of chocolate because the need is still unmet. Whereas when you're reacting from that compassionate place, you've had the chocolate bar, the situation was the same, but your reaction's so different that you're now like more soothed. You're in that soothing headspace. You can have the chocolate if you want it, but you don't have that need for it because you've managed to meet your needs. This is a massive piece of work that's not necessarily really easy, and it takes time. Like it's something that even recognizing it and then gradually building it up and starting to, at the moment when it's automatic, you'll need to kind of reflect on it afterwards, which is why things like journaling can be really good. Like, actually, I reacted to it from that place, but an alternative response could have been this. And you gradually get used to thinking about what that slightly more compassionate response could look like, which makes it then easier where when you incorporate things that kind of soothe you to respond from that place, you're not under threat, really stressed, really needing that chocolate. This is why like just eat less and move more doesn't work because there's so much going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing that bothers me. That's why I spoke to my girlfriend recently and my fiance recently and said, I think some kind of regular counselling is in order, because I used to think that I was so in tune with myself, but it's just not the case. I'm working through my asthma, a syrup of shit that I haven't dealt with properly yet. That caught, like, I've obviously got an addictive nature. I know that because of the excesses of the past, and now those excesses, those compulsions are still very much there, but they are now, because I'm a father and because I'm happy and because the things are going well, they aimed at other things. It's not drugs. It's, Rocky chocolate bar. Oh, mama, they're the stuff. And my biggest problem was always with, and this is random, but my peanut butter. There's nothing I love more in the world. And so I'm going to send you another link to the next 40 minutes so we can record again, and I'll tell you all about peanut butter.
I cannot wait.
Anna, let me tell you about a little guy I like to call peanut butter sandwiches. Peanut butter sandwiches are my vice. There's nothing more delicious in the world to me. Again, I'm aware that a lot of it's because when we were kids, my mum used to make us peanut butter sandwiches for lunch, and it always anchors me because it's not just a peanut butter sandwich. It's I'm sat with mum and it's nice, I'm safe, and I'm young and it's cozy. My brothers are here, and so it's that whole thing because I'm a terribly damaged human being. But my son and my fiance, they also enjoy it, and I've had to say, even against your advice, you've come too late to save the peanut butter, but I've had to say no peanut butter in the house because I can't just have, it's not just one, it's not like I'm nibbling on one sandwich. I'll use the majority of a loaf. You know what I mean? I've been keeping Hovis in business for well over 2 decades now, so I've had to just sort of get away from the house. That's my problem, and so I just wanted to. That's the sort of that's the man you're working with right now. That's the problems that you face, but you said not to. I just don't think I'd have the self control. You know what I mean? Because I have it with butter, peanut butter.
You don't have them with jam?
No, because if I have it with jam, there's no end to it. Then I'll just I never leave the house. You know what I mean? just peanut butter on its own. That is me That is me holding back. The full extent of my powers are frightening if I was to add jam. You know what I mean? So that's the sort of problems. So I've had to exercise that from the house altogether. So do you think with that context, that maybe was wise at least? Because I literally just can't. I'm gonna have lots of them. Do you know what I mean? Let me phrase that like I'm a podcaster, not a rambling drunk on the street. I think. So, what's your advice around, again around compulsion and stuff? So, is it a case of don't get rid of it altogether, but try and limit yourself, even though I just feel like I just don't have that power? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's a balance, isn't there? There's always a balance with these things. I think there's your physical health and you turning into the peanut butter man, which we don't want. And
they used to call me that in school.
My bringing back memories. I apologize. Like, if that's literally what's going to happen, and for your health, I'm taking this like the extreme, but if that's generally what's going to happen, if you are going to consistently eat peanut butter and it's a never ending thing and you're waking up in the night and eating peanut butter because it's in the house, then, and for anyone listening, I would never advise this as the extreme, but maybe have it out of the house a little bit, but that would never be the tool. There's something going on here to dive into. It's a very sad life if you want to be a peanut butter person.
I do.
To completely cut out peanut butter, you need to find the middle ground. And when we restrict things, we place them on a pedestal. So, which is why I'm taking it to that extreme where literally if you're going to consistently eat it nonstop, then maybe for really short periods of time you could, but as a level of eating and just eating it a lot, going into it and finding that balance will be so much more sustainable over time. So maybe it's you take it back a little bit while you're kind of working on that relationship with peanut butter. But that's not the end solution, which is why I would never advise anyone to just take foods out, because what you're doing is you're banning them, so you're putting a different kind of value on them. You're making it's
Yes, I walked past it. We walked past it in Morrison's today, and it's like that George Michael song. Tonight the music. As I'm walking past it, all sad and forlorn because I'm going, we had such good times together, and now you're so far away. And for listeners, what Anna's saying makes total sense because I am the extreme. I'm not the normal case. I have a real problem here. So Anna's advice is totally sound and coming from a professional, but what she's having to contend with here is a very unusual man. So that's the context.
But also, I would say, is you've taken, how long have you had peanut butter out of the house for?
Oh Christ, feels like years, but it's about 2 weeks now.
And how has your relationship with peanut butter changed?
Well, I've stopped thinking about it day to day, and because the problem is, I was getting to the point where every time I was taking a bite out of it, I was feeling my heart clog up with cholesterol. So I feel less like I'm right on the precipice of death. Does that make sense?
It does. I love that. But if you were to have peanut butter around again, you would go back to the original, I assume. What do you think?
Yeah, I think my hope is that with a little bit more time removed, a little bit more time away, then I'll be able to go. Actually, I did feel a lot better, and I do feel a lot better because that was that was literally the main thing I ate all the time, and I do feel better. I feel a little bit more lucid. I feel like I'm not circling the drain anymore, and so I feel like if I was to, what would happen is I'd get some in, I'd eat the whole thing in a couple of days, I feel awful.
Yeah.
And then reevaluate my relationship with it. That was exactly my relationship with drugs as well. I'd go, I'm dying. I'll hold off for a couple of weeks and then really go to town for a couple of days and then go, no, yeah, I was right. Yeah, that was bad. So you know what I mean? That's how it works.
Yeah, but nothing's changed in the sense that you'll still want to be the peanut butter man when it's in the house.
I do. Yeah.
Whereas if you can like maybe have it mindfully and have one a day or even like two a day and then ease down, that over time would be a better solution than just banning it from the house and then forgetting about it and then dreaming about it and then demolishing loads and being in that same routine. Like there's progress where you can slowly make progress and like work on that. Or there is your alternative of demolish peanut butter, ban peanut butter, demolish peanut butter in a never-ending cycle where you think you're going to die and then not die.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also like my fiance will go, yeah, back I'm just gonna make some toast, and she'll reach for the peanut butter, and she'll go, I fucking bought that yesterday. Where is it? or my son will want some. My son will go, butter, but like peanut butter. He's not Indian. He's 2, and he wants butter, and he goes, wants some peanut butter, and then I'll go, it's gone. Where to throw it? You know what I mean? So I think what I'd do is if I was to reintroduce it, I'd make a list. I'd go, okay, tick the box. Just one today. Good. Stop. Resist. Halt. And then that would be a good. At least I get some endorphins from the. Okay, I was able to just have one. You know what I mean? I would have to introduce it with some kind of reward system so I can go. Right. Okay, I'm not. It hasn't got total control of me. I mean, to be honest with you, Anna, saying all this out loud has been quite an eye-opening experience for me. But there we are.
I'm very glad.
But yeah, that's sound advice. I do really appreciate that. Let's focus on you for a minute because I fear the more we focus on me, the more I'll alienate any listeners that we already have. So, what was your sort of initial motivation for? I mean, is it a very personal thing for you, the nutrition and psychology side of it? I mean, let's explore that part of it. What is it that drives you?
I love that. What a change. Over to you. Tell me your peanut butter story.
Yeah. Ignore that insane peanut butter rambling, and let's move on. Anyway, so enough about me.
I think, I suppose in terms of nutrition and what I do now, so the people who I work with are people who have always been struggling with yo-yo dieting, typically, and kind of want to bring an end to that. And it fits in very well with the nutrition and the psychology and the mindfulness, all of that, which is very convenient. But also, I suppose it does fit into, I don't know many people who have grown up without dieting to extremes or diet culture or fad diets or like had long periods of time with like fixation on body and stuff like that. I think that's very normalized in a way that's not healthy. I'm very fortunate that it was never an extreme, but when I was I was in a job that was really high stress, And often this is how it typically happens, is when you're really high stress, you don't necessarily have the coping mechanisms and you're feeling out of control. Food is something that you can always control, which is why these things always typically happen. It's quite a automatic thing, is starting to control food. And actually, I didn't really notice it for a while. I was getting so many compliments because I did lose weight, and it was never to the extreme. But it was enough that I was on a night out with a friend and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, "Haven't eaten properly in a few months. Like, it's all good. Just on a night out. Should we go back out to the cheese floor?" And it was kind of, my friend was like, "Okay." And there was that moment where I was like, "This is ridiculous. Like, what am I doing?" I wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating. There was just a lot of stress, minimal coping mechanisms at the time. And I feel like I had always jumped through different diets when I was younger, but it was very normal. Did like a raw diet for a week, thought I was dying because I ate a raw beetroot. Don't know how old I was, maybe like 14, 15. Fasting diet, like nearly fainted, all of these things. And I was just like, "Oh, that's fine." And now I'm at a stage where I'm like, that is so ridiculous. And to be able to put out the message that that's not the solution, like thinking about everything as a whole and not these fad diets, and finding a way that fits into your lifestyle and that you enjoy, and that your body is so cool and so much more interesting than the number on the scales and what it looks like, and all of these other factors. So that is that like personal aspect of it, but I think that very much helps. I think it's actually really quite normal in, sadly, the world we live in, the world with, especially with like social media now growing, that's definitely escalating. And to be able to be in a position where I can help combat some of the bullshit is,
yeah. People like you are going to be such a treasure going forward. And I speak as a father, because how am I supposed to teach my son that the human body isn't supposed to look like that? You know what I mean? How am I supposed to help him fend off these, body consciousness and all these things that social media is going to constantly go, "Look at my airplane, look at my six pack, look at my da 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 da," and he's going to be, sat in his, shit house with his poor dad who's, died recently because of all the peanut butter he's ingested. And how do I give him the tools he needs to protect himself from that? And it's really scary. So people like you make me sleep a lot easier, knowing that going forward it's not all madness. There are some sane, talking heads out there, and you're one of them.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right. And I want to. Please carry on. Yeah.
No, just that. I can't remember what I was going to say. I've lost my train of thought. Like, your body is actually really cool, and like all these other factors that I think people forget about. Like, instead of focusing on the number of scales, but like what you can lift or what you can do, or doing different things, and like it's actually really cool. And yet all that social media shows is rubbish. But those people are not healthy. Like those women who are tiny, they've lost their periods. Those men, they are not good. They're people. They're not happy. They're really angry. Like that's not healthy. Like that's not what health looks like. And yet it's depicted as that. Those people can't function properly. Like their bodies are literally they're starving. So yeah, it's mad. It is mad that that's like pushed. Anyway, there you go. Sorry, carry on.
No, 100%. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. What we'll do is I'm going to draw your attention to our producer, George. Now, partly because it's funny, because he's currently self-conscious about the glow on his forehead. He told me that in confidence before the record, and I wanted to draw you and the audience's attention to it. So, George, there we are. And
this is a safe space.
It is, yeah. And also, George has managed to lose, he just told me, 2 stone since Christmas. So, George, how the hell did you do that?
Well, I guess, so my partner's very good at mindfulness. She's very good at sort of teaching me about it and stuff like that. And also, I think it was her that gave me the tip, just sort of do one little thing. So I was eating these chocolate filled Belvita bars, and I really like
Oh,
that.
baby.
Yeah. Very, very similar. I could be the Belvita man. I like it that much.
Mhm.
And I did ban them. They are banned from my house. But I was eating sort of 2 a day, and they were unnecessary. I didn't need them. They were just because I've got a bit of a sweet tooth. So I've replaced them with some fruit. And I'm a right creature of habit as well. So if I set myself, I will eat this every day. I freak out if I don't eat those things every day. So yeah, I was just cut that little thing out. Oh, and I go for a walk every day.
So you thought you'd show me up on my own podcast, did you, Georgie baby? That's impressive. So is that's good, I suppose, is it, Anna? Because he's obviously identified the issue. He's baby steps. Is that the key? Baby steps, little things at a time. I suppose is the way to do it. And
absolutely. Like, if you think about where you want to get to, and then you'll break it down, and then break it down again, like where you are now, how you can actually fit it into your day. Like, if you're trying to do a million things, you probably physically don't have the time. Like, you'll be doing certain things within your day for a reason. Some of it will be aimless and it'll be scrolling. So maybe we can swap that for a walk. But some of it, like, you'll be putting the children to bed, you're going to work, you're getting up, you're getting dressed. There's like a practical element of it. And if you can start really small, then those things become those habits that will stay. Sustainability is the absolute winner and what you always want to be aiming for. There's no point deciding you're going to run like 10K every single day while working like 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. every day. Like, where's that realistically going to happen? But if you could do like a 10-minute jog in the morning, then you've already got that time allocated. That's already a habit. From there, if you want to build up, you then can. You're not doing a complete overhaul, because otherwise you're going to get to the end of, like, this is why meal plans don't really work, because you kind of live by someone else's life for that set amount of time. And then you get to the end of it and you've got no idea how those actually fit into your life and the way you live long term. Like, as challenges come up, you need to be able to adapt and mix it up and like actually figure out what will work. What I typically do is like a baseline with people. Like, when you're really busy and really stressed, like the basic things you do, and these will be the small steps that you've kind of built up. And then there'll be a day where like someone else is looking after the child and you've got another few hours. You're like, on this day, I could go for like a bit of a longer walk actually, and I could get some meal prep in, and that's like the next level up. But if you don't nail the small steps first and you just jump to the top of the pyramid, it's going to go crumbling. It's not going to last. You'll be done in like 2 weeks and you'll feel sad and disappointed, and then you'll eat all the peanut butter.
Yes, that's one of the inevitable things in existence. I will do that. Yeah, and I think because I'm always just sort of worried, like but one thing we do actually do, to be fair, is I do walk a lot. I just don't then take advantage of the fact that I do walk a lot. I walk all the way to work. I take my son for walks all the time. We go for adventures, and so actually we probably walk in a way more than the average. But the problem is I'm not then going home and eating something that works in tandem with this lovely exercise I've just had. I'm sort of fucking it up. And walk without that walking, and if I didn't have my son, I'd be like one of the. Have you ever seen the film WALL-E? Where they tend to fucking they're all like, everyone's obese in those cars and they're all like sort of floating around. I'd be one of those guys, and so that the walking, I think, is what's keeping me alive. So and I totally agree. That's 100% the case. And if I was to sort of start, just talk. You're such a good communicator. You're actually motivating me to want to do something about it, which I appreciate and resent, because now I'm going to go, God, I've got to do something now. So that's great. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Is there anything that you wanted to get across to the listeners? Is there any particular message that you want to hit or to convey? Whilst we've got you here,
ignore the rubbish, I think, is a general one. If anyone's talking in extremes, if it sounds too good to be true, block, delete, move on. Just get rid of that person. Cleanse your Instagram, cleanse all of that stuff, and just start really small, doing stuff for yourself. Yeah. Taking those small moments to pause, that will be a game changer. Oh, and follow me on Instagram.
Yes. Where can we find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
I'm Anna Marie. Yeah, annamarie.nutrition.
Okay, that's great. And I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I know this is a strange experience, and we're strange men, and it's nice for you to spend time with us and humour us like this. I really appreciate it. It's very good of you.
I've loved it. I really enjoyed it. It's
Good.
been a very enjoyable podcast recording. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, good. And that's the other thing, the point I want to make where I frustrate myself is like, I've got such discipline with the podcast, this business I'm trying to run. If I could just, the only area of my life, and yeah, where I get up early, I've got discipline in almost every aspect of my life, except with food and fucking dieting. It's such a pain in the ass, isn't it? I've just got to concentrate, sort myself out.
That's probably why, though, isn't it? If everything else is so stressed, is that your maybe fun?
Yeah,
Like,
I think so. But also, I'm just
switch off.
I'm also very, very happy for the first time in maybe 30 years. So I try and I just go, oh, a little bit of sugar will only add to the happiness for now. Yeah, until the self-loathing kicks in. And that's the spiral I find myself in. But that's for another time. We might have to check in with you frequently to make sure I'm not spiraling out of control. So you can be a friend of the show.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
Lovely to speak to you both.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really nice for you to join us, and we'll hopefully speak to you soon.